has to say.
Yeah, Rick, people have started filtering into the building just about an hour ago, and the going is slow. People are having to get through security checks to get inside of the building. So this gigantic line of people that we see wrapping all the way around this way and then circling around through the street here, all the way around the other side of the Big Sandy Superstore Arena, it's going to be a long wait for these people. But it's been really interesting talking to people who are Trump supporters waiting to get the first personal glimpse that they've had of the President of the United States. They say that they're really excited to hear about the economic opportunities that Donald Trump could bring to the state, particularly coal jobs, steel jobs. We talked to one man out of Ona who is a steel worker who said during the election he was really worried about his job in particular with all of the layoffs at companies like AK Steel over in Ashland and other areas. And he thought that Donald Trump was his best option to get those jobs back into the state or to secure those jobs in general. We've also talked with a man who followed the Trump campaign all the way from 2015 all over the state. He was throwing Trump 2020 hats out into the crowd, and he was saying that he's already looking forward 3.5 years to 2020 trying to get Trump reelected. And they're also talking about the midterms here. So a lot of different topics that people are trying to cover here. One of the ones that hits close to Huntington is definitely the opiate problem, which is going to be really interesting to see if President Trump talks specifically about that here in Huntington. And I know a lot of people are really eager to see what he's going to say. We're going to give you another update here coming up in just a little while. But for right now, just outside of the Big Sandy Superstore Arena, Sean Delancey, Eyewitness News. Yeah, well, Rick, it's been very interesting talking with people lined up to see President Donald Trump. They've been filtering in here for about an hour and a half, and it doesn't look as impressive as it did about a half an hour ago behind me. But as we continue to wrap around here, check it out. It is literally wrapped all the way down past 7th Street and then loops back the other direction and then back. It's like a giant snake here that keeps looping back and forth. And just about everybody here is really excited to get inside and see what President Donald Trump has to say to the people of Huntington and the people of the tri-state. Joining us now live, a couple of staunch Trump supporters here in Jenny and Colt, both out of Ashland. First of all, tell me a little bit, are you excited to see President Trump speak this evening?
Absolutely. I'm glad he's in our area. That we need this.
What are you expecting out of him this evening?
I hope he's here to tell us he's going to bring back more jobs for our tri-state area. We all need that.
Well, you know, Ashland has had some serious issues in terms of AK Steel, things like that going out. What kind of economic development does he need to bring to this area?
He needs to get the coal fields up and running and put people back to work and get this economy restarted in our area.
And you have absolute confidence that he's the man to do it?
He can do it. We all need to get together and get behind him and support him.
Absolutely. When Trump comes to an area like this, he gets to see people that do support him. Very loyal area here. Do you think he really gets a lot of energy from seeing people come out and support him like this?
Well, looking at this crowd, you would have to think so. And as far as the naysayers over there are not very many, so I have to think that our area is all about Mr. Trump and doing what he can do to make our area great again.
Absolutely. Jenny Colt, thank you very much. Jenny Colt here, just about the same as a lot of the other people in the line here. Excited to hear a little bit about what President Donald Trump can bring to the tri-state area, an area that is ailing with economic issues and an opioid crisis. It's going to be very interesting to see if he touches both of those topics. We're going to give you another update here in just about half an hour, but for right now, live outside the Big Sandy Superstore Arena, Sean Delancey, Eyewitness News. Yeah, well, Rick, a lot of supporters might be an understatement. Here just about 15 minutes ago, they closed the front doors and have not been allowing anybody in. That just a couple of seconds ago, they reopened the doors, but I think they're trying to figure out if they're at capacity, past capacity, and if everybody's going to be able to get in here. Now, just take a look. They just reopened the doors, trying to figure out if they're at capacity, but all the way along here, all the way back, all the way down 3rd Avenue, down to 7th Street, it is like a snake, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. There's still probably just about 1,000 people still outside of these doors waiting to get inside. I know everybody's anxious. They wanted to get inside. If they can't, there's a loudspeaker set up so that they can hear, but I know a lot of people very excited to see the president today. Talking with people, hanging out with them all day long here, they say that they're really excited to hear him talk about the economic opportunities he can bring to the tri-state area, very economically depressed area, Cabell, Ashland, over in Boyd, the whole area around here. And another main issue that people have been talking about about is the opioid crisis. They're hoping to hear some kind of federal message about the opioid crisis, the things that can be brought down, the resources to turn the issues around here, especially here in the Huntington area where it is a massive issue. Now, people are beginning to strain in here, but with 1,000 people outside, and it looked like several thousand already filing in earlier, it might be iffy as to if everybody's going to get in here. We're going to give you an update as to how many people actually make it in here in just about a half an hour. But for right now, live just outside of the Big Sandy Superstore Arena, Sean Delancey, Eyewitness News. Well, Rick, the people waiting right now are going to continue to wait. As far as we can tell, the doors have been shut down for just about an hour now, and people were lined up all along this block here. But after about a half hour of waiting, not moving anywhere, mob mentality took over, and they all just took over the pad right here out in front of the Big Sandy Superstore Arena. They were listening to the early speakers come over the loudspeakers, and everybody seems kind of content to sit outside for right now. I know everybody's going to be disappointed if they can't get inside the building to see the president, because everybody was really excited to hear what kind of message he would bring here to Huntington, because the tri-state area does have several problems they believe he can fix. The first of which is jobs. We talked to somebody earlier from ONA who was talking about how he's a steel worker, and early on in the campaign, he was concerned that with the loss of jobs like AK Steel over in Ashland and things along those lines, that his job was no longer secure, and he thought President Trump would be able to secure that job and bring more back. The other thing people are talking a lot about here is the opioid crisis that has just ravaged West Virginia and Huntington in particular. It's going to be very interesting to see if Donald Trump brings a message about opiates and how the federal government can put a role together in solving that issue. But right now, it seems like as they entered the pad, there was a good bit of contention between the supporters here on this side and the protesters over there on that side. It's going to be hard for police to keep tempers down as the night continues, especially if Donald Trump continues to speak and the protesters are trying to get the speech to end. So we're going to continue to watch this as it develops. But for right now, reporting live just outside of the Big Sandy Superstore Arena, Sean Delancey, Eyewitness News. Absolutely. I talked to the ones that actually did get into the building. First off, they have closed the doors. It seems like that the arena is at capacity, so nobody else has been getting in over the last hour or so. So people began to fill the pad, and it actually looks like, I don't know if that is or not, but that might be, people are lined up down there to see the arrival of President Donald Trump's motorcade. They're probably going to be shutting down those streets in here in just a minute to allow him area to come through here. But I know a lot of the people, even though they haven't been able to get inside, are still excited to hear. They've got the loudspeakers set up on this end, which will allow them to hear President Trump's speech. So even though they can't see him in person, they're still excited to hear what kind of message he's bringing here to West Virginia. Now, the things that they're looking forward to, of course, is the economy. The number one thing that everybody talked about while we were here in line talking to people and feeling them out was the economy. Jobs, jobs, jobs. I talked to one man from ONA who was talking about how, as a steel worker, he was really concerned before the election that his job was in jeopardy with a lot of the layoffs that have been happening in this area in the steel industry, and he thought that President Donald Trump would be the man that would be able to secure his job and bring more back into the region. The second thing people are worried about is the opioid crisis that has affected here in Huntington specifically, but West Virginia as a whole. They're hoping that he can bring a message that would entail a lot of dollars towards the opioid crisis from the federal government. So there's two main concerns that they have here. Now, one thing that has developed because people are not allowed in it anymore, we've got basically two lines here. One on the left is the supporters, the one on the other side is the protesters, and they've been facing off here for about the last half hour. One yelling at the other yelling back. It seems to be getting a little heated, but we do have police from multiple different agencies on scene to make sure that if it does get out of hand, they can take care of it. Now, Trump is expected to be in any moment now, so we're going to go ahead and toss it inside the arena to Rick Lord, who's got an update from inside and what's going on at the actual rally itself. Well, Rick, I was listening to the loudspeakers out here. There were cheers inside, and there were also cheers outside during that last speech. People very passionate about what's going on here today, very passionate about Donald Trump's visit here today. If you just look around, we've still got outside at least several hundred people just filling the pad of the Big Sandy Superstore Arena, and it doesn't matter which side people are on. Everybody has a very, very strong opinion about a man who has really energized this area in one way or another. Now, we believe that the motorcade just came by a couple minutes ago, and Trump should be taking the stage at any point at this time. But a lot of the supporters that were out here today, we've been hanging out with them all day long, hearing what they want to hear from President Trump. Now, what they would like to hear, of course, number one is jobs. We've been saying it all day, and everybody out here has talked about it in one form or another. They're looking to have a betterment of the economy here in the tri-state area, whether they're from here in Huntington or across the state, Ohio, Kentucky, doesn't matter. They came here, they talked about jobs. That's one of the key things that they're really wanting to see happen here. We actually talked to a guy earlier who's been following the campaign since 2015, and he said that he would travel around and he embroidered his own hats and came out to the line as everybody was waiting before they opened the doors at 4 o'clock and was tossing the hats into the crowd. Everybody was yelling and screaming, and his main thing, he said, the reason that he's been supporting Donald Trump that kind of way for so long is because he's a businessman, and that has been a common thread amongst people here in the crowd. Another thing that people absolutely want to see happen is Donald Trump talk about opiates here when he comes to Huntington. Huntington has been criticized as the heroin capital of the United States as a result of 26 to 28 overdoses in the period of about 4 hours, 28 in the county, 26 in the city. So we've garnered national attention because of that. And so we've had, let's say, last year alone, we had more than 1,200 overdoses just here in the city of Huntington. That comes along with about 33 deaths. So when we're talking about more than 1,000 overdoses in 1 year in the city of Huntington, there's not a single person that hasn't been affected. And whether they're protesters or here on the pad supporting Donald Trump, there's not a single person out here that hasn't in one way or another been affected by the opioid crisis that has affected West Virginia and Huntington in general. So I know a lot of people are looking to hear him make some kind of big announcement. They're looking to see some support, some federal dollars, some kind of program from Donald Trump to address and fix that issue, because so far every time we've tried here locally or in the county or in the city to fix it, the problem has continued to rise over the last 4 years, and it's really gripping just about everybody in the area. Now, a lot of passion does comes with its positives and negatives. As you can see back here, we've got SWAT police officers ready to go. We've got the Huntington police in a barrier almost between the supporters and protesters. Now, when the Trump supporters figured out that they were no longer going to be able to get inside of the building, the Big Sandy Superstore Arena was at capacity, so they closed the doors. So everybody began to fill the pad, and that's when this line developed between the protesters and the supporters here on this end. And it has gotten kind of heated at points. The protesters chanting, yelling, really some inappropriate things at the supporters yelling some inappropriate things back. So it has been getting kind of heated, but we've got state police, we've got the Secret Service, we've got the Sheriff's Department, we've got Huntington police all here on scene and ready to respond in case things get out of hand. Now, I don't think anybody is expecting it to get out of hand, but things can go downhill really very quickly when you're in these kind of really charged environments. Just a second ago, actually, this whole area here, right along 3rd Avenue, all the way down to 7th, was filled with people, and they finally realized, well, I guess we're not moving anywhere, so it became a mob mentality kind of thing, and everybody just kind of shifted their way into filling on the pad, and it created, I don't want to say a stampede, but definitely a river that you could not go back against. So that kind of mob mentality is what people really worry about in situations like this, and that's why the police have such a heavy presence in this area. Not that they expect something to happen, but just to be ready in case something happens. So we're actually going to go back inside to Rick to see how things are developing inside and when the next speaker is going to be up. Rick?